Welcome to this meeting of the Integration Joint Board. Can I please remind all members that meetings are recorded and will be made available to the public on the dghscp.co.uk webpage. Recording will be published within the next 24 hours. Members are asked that if they would like to ask a question or be included in the conversation of the meeting, they must raise their hand. Can I ask all members who are joining remotely to have their cameras on and microphones off and they're speaking. This allows members to ensure there is full engagement and participation in the meeting. For all members who are submitting their apologies for any meeting of the IJB, please ensure that they advise the chair of the meeting and the business support team who will be substituting for them in the meeting and to ensure they receive all necessary paperwork ahead of the meeting. Can I please remind all report authors to assume that everyone has read the reports prior to this meeting and they're not required to provide the detailed update to the meeting. Members have agreed to join virtually due to exceptional circumstances. There are Kim Dam, Gail McGregor, Paula Stevenson, and Andy Ferguson. I have apologies from Vicky here, Stephen Morgan, hopefully I have Rebecca here in his stead, Mark Bailey, Alan Webb, and Dennis Mail, who have absented himself for a while. Moving on to the agenda, do we have any declarations of interest in relation to today's agenda, please?
Apology for Chrissy Hill.
Apology for Chrissy Hill, thank you. Although we do have Gail McGregor on the call, so I don't know if she's.
This is sometimes so.
Chair, can I come in?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, as you know, I came on because I thought you were going to need me for chorusy. I think you've got a quorum without me. That means I can go back to the council committee.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Andy. 3 of us here actually sit in audit and risk as well, so.
Yeah, but you're 2 members. I wasn't supposed to be there today, but I've only just came on. That's what I'm getting at. It doesn't matter where everyone else is. That means that it would be 4 people out of the audit and risk committee. But I'm just asking. I agreed to come on here at the last minute because we thought we were going to be short on members to make this meeting quorum. So if the meeting is quorum, you don't need me, then I'll come back off.
Right, bear with me, Andy, please.
Right.
You just updated on the chorus, please. Amber.
Is it 5?
We have 5, yeah, and then we have
5. So we have yourself, Kim Dams, Willem, Ian Crothers, Paula Stevenson, Gail McGregor, who's obviously a substitute, I'm assuming today for Chrissy Hill, Paula and Andy leaves.
Yeah, I'm happy for you to go after that, Andy. Thank you.
Okay, look, thanks very much, folks. Sorry to miss you about. Okay, thank you.
No problem. Paula, do you have an issue?
I need to leave at past to go to the audit and risk committee.
Still leave us 5. Yeah, okay. Shouldn't be an issue as long as we remain quorum, but I see Gail's put her hand up. Gail?
Yeah, I'm on audit and risk as well, but I've told them that I'll go along later, so they've already been advised of that. But I think we need to look very carefully at the council diary when we're arranging IJB meetings, or vice versa.
Okay, thanks for that. So are you able to stay with us till the end? Because clearly this is the financial plan, it's signing off and it's the last item on the agenda, Gail.
Yeah, no, I'll stay till the end. As I say, I've advised them that I'm going to be late for audit and risk.
Thanks very much. Okay. Oh, that was an interesting start to me. Okay.
And Andy, just to flag that I said before that about the actually confirming.
Yeah.
On the.
Yeah, please. We had a conversation just before the meeting began. Before the meeting started, there was myself, Gwilym and Kim Dams had confirmed their attendance. We really could do with members confirming their attendance prior to the meeting rather than just turn up. It creates, it helps us avoid the situation where we're asking substitutes to come along. Thanks. Okay, we've got the item 3, minutes of Dumfries and Galloway IJB held on the 5th of March 2024. As I said in the introduction, everyone will be expected to have a look through them.
Oh, sorry. I don't know why that did that. Sorry.
It's all going so well. So looking at the agenda, sorry, draft minutes of the 5th of March, are there any issues for anyone? Firstly, in accuracy? Okay, nothing there. Any issues in relation to matters arising? Nobody wants to talk about being here or not being here, but nothing. Okay, so can we have a proposer and a seconder, please? So that's in Carruthers and Will, thank you. Okay, moving on to the action list, item 4.
There's nothing to flag or bring forward to today's meeting, and I'll continue to update prior to June.
Is there not the membership update? We're going to be doing that in the agenda.
Yeah, which is the next item.
Yeah, okay. Right, it's okay, right, okay, so we're rattling through this, okay. Item number 5, membership update. Alison's with us today to give us an update on that.
So this report that is presented to you today is just, it's for formal sign off to appoint Nicole, who has been through the interview process, and I think you were all invited to attend the meeting to when Nicole was appointed. So it's just, we're noting the decision of NHS Dumfries and Galloway and Dumfries and Galloway Council in appointing Nicole to this position, and we're also having to agree the appointment of Nicole as well today. If members are happy to do so.
Okay, thanks, Alison. So the situation is that Chief Exec of Council and Local Authority have gone through the process, identified a suitable candidate, which is Nicole at the moment. So it's for our information and for us to agree that Nicole can perform that role. Everyone comfortable with that? No issues?
I've got no issue with seven. I made that statement. I thought the process too. So do we just know, or are we appointing, or we agree?
Yeah.
We agree.
Yeah, agreed. So we're having to approve. Remember way back in the day when Julie was appointed first?
I thought that you'd be appointed at that time with a recommendation from, but
So she's been appointed, everybody's been included in the process, both the chief execs were included in the review process, so it's just the last part of the process.
However, I think that the substantive process will be slightly different.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that. So we've noted and we agree that Nicole is interim chief officer. Item 5B, Alison again.
This is a wider membership update. Members will be aware that Norma Austin had tendered her resignation for third sector last year, and after the recruitment process in third sector Dumfries and Galloway, Alan Webb was appointed to the role. So it's just for members to formally approve that Alan becomes the third sector representative. I've sort of touched base a couple of times with Alan regarding information and so forth. So if members are happy to approve that. Also, just to say that we have received notification that Dennis Mail is stepping back from his duties for a period of 4 months, and Andy Ferguson has agreed to fulfil this role and on a temporary basis. Been in touch with the council, and unfortunately they're not in a position just now to give us a substitute, if you like, for Andy's post. However, they are aware of the situation, and if that changes, they will let us know. Also, we've been notified that Rihanna Davis McCrory has withdrawn from her position on the NHS board with immediate effect. Again, been liaising with the NHS board, and they're not in a position just now to provide us with a replacement. So we will be notified in due course. And I'd like to also add, Andy, that very sort of hot off the press, we were notified just at the tail end of last week that Karen Martin, the carers rep, has unfortunately had to withdraw from her position on the Education Joint Board. If members are happy, we will liaise with the Strategic Planning Committee, and Rod has very helpfully said that we could tap into his participation and engagement. Is it a committee, Rod, in North Fewer?
It's,
Network, to look at sort of getting a new member, as well as we're still requiring a services of rep as well, members will be aware. So it's just that's a wee added, that it seems all doom and gloom in the membership and things there, unfortunately.
Can I ask Alison, so that situation where Dennis Mail is stepping back for a short time?
Yeah.
One of the substitutes has stepped forward from council. Can't we do a similar thing for the board members
Right,
this
so
time?
we have asked about that, and unfortunately they're already one member down, so this is two members down on the NHS board. They're members, so they're really stretched as it is at the moment. If there's any change in that, we will obviously let us know.
Okay, thanks a lot. Okay then, everyone happy to know that? Okay, thank you. Well, the main reason we're here today is to the financial plan and budget. And we've got Katie with us today, who's going to lead us through it. Smile, as always.
And I think Kim had her hand up there. I'm
Go
not
ahead.
sure.
Sorry, Kim, did you want to come in there? We'll move on.
Yeah, sorry, Andy, just very quickly, if we could just note and all be aware that those two substitutions and vacancies will potentially leave us short for committees. So if any of the members can potentially substitute for committees where we might be short, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that, Kim. Okay, moving on to item 6. This additional IJB is scheduled today to have a wide discussion on the budget for 24-25. Katie, Director of Finance, will take us through it. We've been asked to note the contents of the report. Note that IJB has reviewed the draft financial plan at a workshop session on the 9th of April and supported submission of the final draft for the IJB approved to the IJB for approval. Acknowledge the recurring deficit position of the NHS delegated budget and the ongoing discussions between the NHS board and Scottish Government. Note the financial estimates and savings plan is set out in the draft plan. Approve the financial plan for 2024-25 as set out in this report. Approve the use of IJB reserves of 1.009 million to balance the position non-recurrently for 24-25. Note that the budget includes the additional costs of the year of proposals for the Right Care, Right Place flexible beds and procurement processes have commenced. Note the development of the savings proposals through the Health and Social Care Partnership and the requirement to deliver savings to reduce the in-year deficit position and support the delivery of the financial plan. Note that reporting on delivery of the detailed financial plan will be undertaken through the IJB Performance, Finance and Quality Committee. Note the budget realignment, which is proposed from delegated council budget, which will be implemented from the 1st of April 2024. Approve the delegation of a budget of 397 million to the NHS Dumfries and Galloway, and direct that this budget is spent in line with the strategic plan of the IJB. And lastly, approve the delegation of a budget of 112.823 million to the Dumfries and Galloway Council, and direct that this budget is spent in line with the strategic plan for the IJB. And with that, I'll hand over to Katie.
Thank you, Chair. So I suppose a few things that I wanted to say today, and as the Chair said at the beginning, I'm going to make the assumption that you read the paper. And I'm also, as you're aware, we did a workshop last week for the IJB, so I'm not going to go through this at a very detailed level, but there are some kind of key highlights and key points that I wanted to mention to make sure that members were aware in advance of hopefully supporting the recommendations in the paper. So the first thing is that funding has been confirmed from the various parties, the NHS and the local authority, through their budget setting processes, and that reflects the expectation in terms of the resource from Scottish Government, and that's been fully passed on to the Integration Joint Board. Again, just reminding, the NHS has had a 0% uplift, and the local authority around about 8 million, and that's in relation to the commitments around the Scottish Living Wage and the free personal care continuation. So again, just noting that after applying all the pay and price uplifts, there is a shortfall in the budget. And I suppose all of the overall position assume that there will be additional funding for any pay uplift for 24-25, and that will be provided alongside any agreement, so both through the NHS and the local authority. And obviously at this stage of the year, we don't know what they're going to be because those negotiations are still ongoing. We've set out within the paper that savings of 21 million are required to be delivered. And even with that, the delegated budget is likely to have a projected deficit of 20 million. That's certainly my current forecast, based on the position at the moment. Obviously, both the local authority and the NHS are working on their year-end positions as we speak, so we'll have more clarity in the next update that will bring to the IJB in June. Will give us an update on where that is. And I think it just, I suppose, to summarise the position, both myself and Nicole are working very closely with the NHS and the local authority to agree the respective positions, including that savings delivery. And if you remember, one of the things I was keen to ensure was that we didn't duplicate the work around that, and that we recognised that that there was this massively challenging financial position that we know that we've got from a financial perspective. I think the other thing is just making sure that we make the linkages between our delivery plans, so our annual delivery plan and the financial plan, and we've significantly improved that this year, and certainly been working again very closely with the various parties around that. And as the chair set out, we need to use some of the reserves, we believe, in here to balance the delegated council position. And I think that the other thing to say is that I suppose for the first time ever in my role as Chief Finance Officer, I'm presenting a paper that has a level of risk beyond that we've ever seen before, in terms of, you know, there's no provision for any kind of activity increases, no provision for any kind of demographic uplifts. It really reflects a bit of a standstill position, and I think we need to be clearly aligning this with the strategic commissioning plan. I think the other thing to say is there will be things that come out of the savings plan delivery, which really link with the transformation discussions. And I think one of the things that we probably need to think about is making sure that on our work plan for the IJB for the next year, that we've got all of that aligned. And I know David Rowland, in his role as strategic commissioning manager, has been working with the partnership around that. So that was all I really wanted to say, Chair. I'm happy to take any questions on the specifics of the position.
Okay, on to members for questions. Jim?
Thanks for that, Andy. No, thanks so much. Thanks so much. It's okay. Thanks for the workshop last week as well. Much appreciated. I think we put it in context, and there wasn't much people on it, but it's to try and get an understanding of what my thinking was said at the time. With this level of cuts, quite shocked. It's quite stunning. I think it's a bleak outlook as it stands at the moment. But let's hear that transpires as negotiations, so on and so forth, and forward, maybe potential for the budget allocations. With a bit of luck. But I'm just trying to understand historic look back at the council. So we were able to, it's a different service, I think. So the council in general terms could increase service, kind of what it charge for services, with a lot of property, so in different types of. It's just, but when it comes to service provision for NHS in particular, when I'm thinking of £20 million, the expectations, how do we meet that going forward? Is also what's in the back of my mind. How do we meet these expectations? What people are used to getting as a service against the budget cuts? Well, just had a legislation, I think she's come in as well to say that the minimum staffing requirements. So that's another pressure. No compulsory redundancy policy, which I think that's appropriate. So if it does focus the mind, particularly in certain places where this money will come from, whether it's profit rationalisation, so on and so forth, can we charge extra? It's just to try and get a greater kind of layman's understanding in regards to what does it really mean for us? Is it about saying, listen, we have to absolutely cut services we didn't have to provide, or is it more about profit rationalisation, increasing charges, or whatever it may be?
So I think from my perspective, it's a bit of both. I think we would be kidding ourselves if we thought we could make that level of savings just from the likes of property rationalisation and kind of pure efficiencies. One of the things that we're absolutely clear on is that a lot of the services that we deliver are not sustainable in their current form, not just from a financial perspective, but from all of the workforce challenges in particular that we've got. So it will require us to look very differently at the way that we deliver those services and actually, you know, kind of attempt to find different ways of doing that. And that's where the transformation agenda comes in so clearly. That being said, it would be remiss of me to say that we absolutely, you know, kind of no stone is unturned in terms of that efficiency and agenda. And a big chunk of the savings programme is around our medicines transformation, which is much of that is drug switching, but also being able to maximise some of the savings that we can make through the pharmaceutical markets and the way that the pricing changes around that. So probably about 4 million of the savings, which is really significant. I think when we're talking about things like the property rationalisation and the like, relatively small figures in the scheme of things, you know, a few 100,000 here or there, but and remember as well, what we don't have, what I haven't set out here is a plan which delivers on all of those savings. We've got a significant gap on the NHS side at the moment. We're going to have to work through and see how we balance that. And one of the, I suppose, the lines that we're sort of crossing is that bit between expectations, not just of patients, but also Scottish Government in terms of where our financial position will be. So, you know, I'm obviously having various conversations with my respective hats on around that. So really challenging, and I suppose I can't say that there won't be any kind of impact around some of this, and we will be needing to assess that as part of the process as things come forward.
Thanks, Katie. Thanks for questioning. I think it's very valid. I do think that, and I'll say it as I do it just about every meeting, that we've got some really difficult decisions to make. And I think that we as a board need to get behind some of the decisions, and they're going to be very uncomfortable. And certainly for us as elected members, you know, we're going to get some pressure from our constituents. So it's really important that we have a clear understanding of what the decisions are, what the rationale is behind them, and that we get behind them, we support them, and sort of put that debate forward to our colleagues and our communities so that they have a greater understanding of why things are happening as they are. David Rowland, do you want to come in?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to build on what Katie has said there. I think, you know, a really challenging financial plan in front of us here. It's really good that we've got it fully aligned with the annual delivery plan, so that the service and financial plan as one. But it does only take us so far. And I'm very conscious that this financial year we will be asking the IJB to refresh its strategic commissioning plan. Just picking up on Katie's point as well about the need for alignment with the future strategic commissioning plan. The IJB faces some really difficult decisions, I think, in terms of how we prioritise the budget that's available to us and operate within that budget to best meet the needs of the local population, accepting that that's going to impact on how we deliver services and which services we actually provide in the future. It's a key role of the IJB, and we are going to have some really difficult discussions and face some difficult decisions over the course of the next year as we begin to reframe that strategic commissioning plan in a way that helps move us back towards financial balance. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, David. I think that's just reinforcing that. Well,
there's a thought in my head here around how we ensure that when we are making savings, they are absolutely joint savings, and that those savings are made in any, whether it's in the NHS or within the council, that have an impact on either one. So that there's something about they have to be real savings jointly and jointly owned, and we don't have an adverse impact on each other, particularly not just within the delegated budgets, but the other budgets that we have. How do we monitor that?
Yeah, I suppose there's a bit for me which an element of this plan and delivery of that requires on the relationship of those three parties, and unless we all individually commit to behaving in a way that that aligns with that, I don't think any kind of monitoring tools that were put in place to do that will necessarily pick all of that up. But I think that means particularly the stuff that we can see around this table. So, you know, the stuff that, you know, we've already got in motion, the midwifery stuff, the right care, right place, and other service reviews. we need to make sure that that consultation and engagement has happened with all the parties around that, and that the decisions that we make around this table, that we're absolutely clear that we've done all of that appropriate consultation, not just with the public, but with the various parties as part of that process. And actually, I think the other thing, Chair, just to say, is I know that one of the things that that Julie, before she left, had been keen to do is have that senior leadership team across the chair of the NHS board, local authority, and also the IGB. And I think thinking about what the role of that group is and how you guys kind of work together in a way that makes that happen at that sort of very senior level, I think is going to be really critical. So so I don't have an absolute answer for that, Bill, but I think for me it's the relationship piece, and that's what's got us through a lot of this, and our behaviours around our respective tables is important.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. I think you're right. And I know Julie was keen to have that meeting, and Nick Morris has contacted Gail McGregor and myself, and we've got meetings scheduled now. And I think that will be a step towards that will certainly help us before making decisions, taking each other's views into account and what sort of positions they have. So, Pamela, then Nicole. Sorry, Pamela. Sorry.
I suppose it is extraordinarily difficult, I think, to do what you're outlining, and I think kind of one of the ways you can do that is the quality and diversity impact assessments, which looks at actually what are the impacts that you think that you might have and how can they actually be mitigated, and I think that's why it's really important to have those done, so there's some level of assurance. But even with that, I think there will still be unintended impacts that come later that come to light. But at least if you've got that kind of EQIE process and you can evidence that you've thought about it and you continue to monitor that, and that should help with part of that. I suppose the other point Andy is just going to be is these are going to be really difficult decisions that's going to have to be made, and I suppose what it makes it more important that all organisations, as part of like the community planning structures and all our respective organisations, create conditions that support actually improved health and wellbeing more generally. So education, our environment, that how we plan, the local delivery plan. So I suppose it's just that asking, and everybody's roles around the tables that they're in, is that actually when there's things happening, how do we actually create those environments that support health, so that helps with the longer term, because this isn't we're going to be in this situation for quite a long time. We've got to think about how we create conditions in Dumfries and Galloway to support that improved health and wellbeing, and that's going to be all of our roles and all of our organisations.
Yeah, also. Nicole?
Thanks, Chair. So just building on both what Katie said, we've also got the Health and Social Care Partnership, where I think and what we have done up to now, Katie, is we've been really open and transparent about the financial plan this year in terms of some, and you would have seen at the workshop some of the items that we've been looking at. And it's the strength of the voice of our professional colleagues around that table as well, whether it be social work, medical, nursing, to absolutely make sure that we do know some of the risks, as Valerie was describing there, and how we do mitigate them, and make sure that we continue to have that transparency in the work that we're doing.
And I think transparency is a very important one, because I really do think that we need to be open and above board and be honest with people. I think a lot of that comes into comms, Rod.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important that we get our comms right, and that we get the message out, we do it in timely way, and that where there's stuff in the public domain that's incorrect, that we take positive steps quickly to correct that, and to make sure that as best we can we get accurate information out there. Ian, what do you think?
So we just asked, it's probably a question as much to yourself or as anybody else, because I think it's a really interesting question you asked, really the kind of cause and effect of the two different decision-making bodies. And I think, so is it in simple terms, does the council take £1 million out of the roads budget to address the potential health issues, or does it actually allocate better levels of value towards, say, its housing, so better even adaptations, care villages, for extra care homes, that type of stuff? Just try to understand where you're coming from, because I think it is really important that they do align with wherever they can, but obviously housing the obvious one, really, would you? If the council invests extra money in housing, then you get the benefits for the health side of that. Whether it's bed block or whether people's actual own personal health or living in better homes. I just wondered if you had any kind of examples that you could have thought of yourself.
But I mean, I think ultimately it's all of those things, and picking up on Valerie's point, it's those, you know, wider determinants of health, and any decisions that are likely to result in a poor outcome of health ultimately is going to have an impact on both our savings targets. So we need to somehow look at have a whole systems approach in order to meet this significant challenge. And it's that transformative change that we need to lead out of the challenge that we've got. And I guess ultimately there is going to be moments when decisions are made inadvertently that do have impacts that we'll pick up on, but it's just trying to flag those as early as possible, whether that's through the qualities and impact assessments. So there's probably nothing in the council's budget that doesn't have an impact on health, actually, or positively. Yeah.
No, I'd be interested in that conversation. Cheers as we move forward.
Yeah, thanks Ian, thanks Will. I think, you know, Katie made the point that we're starting now to align our budget against the strategic plan, the delivery plan. And I think that we have also, when in previous meetings, we've highlighted that when we issue a direction, we need to have a look at the financial implications of where that money's going to come from and how we're going to do it. So now that we're adopting a more strategic approach as to how we manage our budget, but how we deliver the services, and we're making the link rather than just saying we need to deliver that and then go scrambling for the money. We need to have an eye on how we're going to fund whatever it is that we say we want to do. So I think that's really what you've embedded into the plan. But Katie, you wanted to come back.
Yeah, I suppose a couple of things. It was just building on the sort of conversation with Will and Valerie. I think one of the things we do need to be thinking of in IPB is the kind of stuff that we want to escalate back up through even community planning partnerships or through council leadership team or through the NHS to kind of really work out some of those big ticket items. You know, the stuff that you're aligned to around, well, what does that mean for housing? What does that mean for infrastructure programs? How does that and we kind of do it, but not in a very formal way. So I think there is something around how we do that we need to be thinking about. The other thing for me, and the bit that I'm not comfortable with, for want of a better way of describing it, is this is just a 1-year plan. You know, I'm a long-term planner, everybody, and so my struggle with being able to pull together that longer-term financial plan in this current environment is very real. And speaking to most other chief finance officers, other than just doing the spreadsheet and putting a few numbers in, people that sort of make up the plan, for want of a better way of describing it. So I think there is going to be something that we're going to need to be challenged around in terms of starting to think in that longer term, framing around the financial position. And it's incredibly difficult to do that in the kind of current kind of constrained environment. But we don't lift our head out of that space, and we'll always just stay in that kind of reactionary space, if you know what I mean. So I think we've got to the best place we can given the circumstances we've got, but is it where I would like to be? Absolutely not.
Gracie?
Yeah, I think going back to your point, I think for the average person in the street, how do we make it in a way that makes a bit more real what we're talking about in terms of what the savings that we're proposing may mean for us as a region and the impact that may have. And I wonder, how do we sense check and how often do we kind of check and balance the risk and trying to mitigate what we're doing? Is it every 3 months? Is it every month, every 6 months in terms of the savings? And how do we know that what we are doing is having the least impact possible? So I just wanted to understand, Katie, in terms of the planning around monitoring and keeping an eye on our plans.
So I suppose in terms of the IGB itself, and the report will come back, every report that comes to either the IGB or the IGB committee will have an update on where we're at in terms of delivery of savings plans. The level of granularity of detail will be dependent on where we're at with that. But the operational savings plans that Nicole and I are talking about will be monitored through the Health and Social Care Partnership. So that will be where you will probably get more kind of oversight of that. And I think I would very much clearly expect, because we've been talking about trying to get the process for quality and diversity assessments and all of that kind of tied down, that would be one of the places where you would be wanting to challenge us around and make sure that sort of captures both that, but also the quality and patient safety and kind of other impacts around that. And I think for me, again, just focus on what the priority is around the IGB. So any kind of major service change that we're talking about, like the midwifery review, like the right care piece, that any sort of changes as a result of that are clearly kind of assessed as part of that process as they come forward. So you would be needing to kind of input into that. We need to make sure that the professional input across both medical, nursing, and social work and everything is input into all of those processes and moving forward. So you wouldn't see the detail of the operational plans around this table, but the major transformation piece you would. And you would see the detail in the Health and Social Care Partnership space. That makes sense.
And that, I think, is the sort of stuff that you should be looking at and you're committed to. And it really is, again, so you've potentially got a big impact on the finances and developing new ways of working. So that's, I said at last meeting, how it sounds really exciting, sort of stuff that you've got happening there. And I think it has the opportunity to make a real difference to how we go forward. Claire, you've been waiting patiently. Do you want to make a contribution, please?
Great, thanks, Chair. I think my point relates to Katie's point that she made about the kind of short-termism and the short-term planning. And in light of the need for cost savings and the financial challenges that we're in at the moment, I'd just be interested to hear a bit more about how we can free ourselves up to think differently and take forward that kind of transformation piece, which more often than not needs additional investment, or at least investment through tests of change, and that kind of risk around that, and how we balance that against the requirement for cost saving when it could potentially bring about significant cost savings moving forward.
I suppose a couple of things for me, and David may want to comment on this in terms of some of the work that's been happening through the lens and other spaces, but we have had conversations with our partners, both the NHS and local authority, around some of the spend to save ideas and whether there's investment available to allow us to do that. And I think if we have a case and the resources there, then we may be able to get some of those proposals supported. So I think thinking in that innovation and transformation space is where we need to be. And there are examples of things that we're talking about taking forward this year in terms of the what's called the Digital Smart Hub and testing out something called Ethel. So I think we do need to, and maybe it's Claire, that links with my head about not just getting focused on the salami slicing, on the kind of the savings in front of us, that we need to be lifting our head up into that innovation space. And I think we have started on that that kind of trend around some of that, and we've got a few things in motion, and it maybe is one of those things that we need to showcase a little bit more, which we have in the past, and bring forward.
You happy with that, Claire?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Katie, I noticed in the plan that you've got nothing for pay uplifts. So look at page 5, pay uplift AFC medical dental, excuse me. Are we anticipating that if there are any salary increases that will be funded through the government?
So in terms of the NHS, there is nothing built into pay uplifts, and that's based on advice from Scottish Government. And so, yes, I would be expecting that if uplift was agreed by Scottish Government, that would come with funding associated with it. There is an associated piece, which is the what we're describing as the Identical Change non-pay impacts, which was previously agreed by government in 22-23 as part of that settlement. And we've just had notification yesterday, actually, that there is a sum of money coming on a non-recurring basis to NHS boards a share of 200 million to support that. Whether that will be enough to fund the costs of that, I'm not sure. That it relates to the change to the working week to 36 hours and review of grading for nurses and the like. So Pam, as workforce director in the NHS board, is leading that work. My inclination is that the resource will not be enough and we'll have to have those conversations. So there's various strands of it. In terms of the local authority uplift, we built in provision into the budget of an uplift of 3%, and that's in line with the broader kind of council financial planning policy as agreed with Paul Garrett. So my expectation would be is if a settlement was agreed that was beyond that 3%, that there would, if additional resource comes to the local authority to support that, we would get our share of that in the delegated budget.
Well, thank you, Katie. And I think it's really interesting you mentioned that you don't think that the share of the 200 million would be sufficient because of, I was going to refer to a diagram on page 6 that Pam's get 2 million to save, and yet you're saying that we don't think that we'll have sufficient money to sort of do what we're doing at the minute. But equally on that same diagram, you know, we've got medicines at 4 million and service redesign at 7 million. Those are big figures, which means big changes, I would suggest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Anything else from anyone else? Okay. Go once, going twice. Okay, that being the case, then I'll do what I did at the beginning, just to remind you all. We're asked to note the contents of the report, noted, yeah. Note that the IGB has reviewed the draft financial plan at workshop session last week and support the submission of the final draft to us today for approval. Acknowledge the recurring deficit position of the NHS delegated budget and ongoing discussions between the NHS board and Scottish Government. Note the financial estimates and savings plan is set out in the draft plan. I think obviously the draft plan will become the plan. Approve the financial plan for 2024-2025 as set out in this report. Approved. Approve the use of IGB reserves of 1.009 million to balance the position of non-recurring for 2024-2025. Approved. Note that the budget includes the additional cost for the year 1 proposals for the Right Care Right Place flexible beds and procurement processes commenced. Note the development of the savings proposals through the Health and Social Care Partnership and the requirement to deliver savings to reduce the in-year deficit position and support the delivery of the financial plan. Note that reporting on delivery of the detailed financial plan will be undertaken through the IGB's Performance Financing Quality Committee. Note the budget realignment which is proposed for the delegated council budget which will be implemented from the 1st of April 2024. Approve the delegated budget of £397 million to NHS Dumfries and Galloway and direct that this budget is spent in line with the strategic plan for the IGB. Approved. And approve the delegation of a budget of 112.823 million to Dumfries and Galloway Council and direct that this budget is also spent in line with the strategic plan for the IGB. Okay, thanks, Katie. Okay, item number 7 is any other business deemed urgent by the chair due to need for a decision. Nothing's been brought to my attention, nothing's been brought forward, so at that I will conclude this meeting and see you all on the 4th of June. Okay, thank you, members.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.